What happens when your creative time is eaten up by repetitive manual tasks? In post-production, your most valuable asset isn't your render farm and it isn't your software.
We're on a project right now where there's 960 deliverables.
It's time. That's why we brought together a team on the front line of this challenge. We spoke to Ted Griffiths, a partner and post-producer at TBD Post in Austin, Texas, as well as SGO, the makers of Mistika workflows. We'll be speaking with managing director Jeff Mills, as well as creative solutions architect Adrian Gonzalez and solutions architect Jesus Rodriguez. This is Inside the Integration.
Can you give me a brief overview of what Mistika Workflows is and also where it came from?
Sure. Well, SGO as a company actually has been around since the early 1990s, so we've been around a long time and very used to obviously solving problems in a post-production world. And I think probably Mistika Workflows is for me one of our most exciting products because ultimately it can be used by anyone who needs to handle media, orchestrate workflows, pipelines, etc. Under the hood is still our finishing solution. So it actually still has all that power and functionality, and we then just expose it to the user to do almost anything, which is why actually these integrations are really, really exciting for us.
And Ted, this one's for you. Walk me through the workflow challenges or specific bottleneck that led you to actually request this integration.
We had been using a different platform for file delivery and distribution. And as we made the move to Massive, we wanted to integrate it as part of some of the things that we were doing. On a basic level, like one of the things that we're doing is we're using for our sound department. Anytime we get a reference for a new film or TV show that we're working on, there's a number of different sound editors, Foley artists, mixers that are either here in house or spread across the country that need to have that reference with a watermark with their name on it. And so on a very basic level, like the most simplest version of it is, okay, we're receiving a reference from client through Massive. The watermark gets put on it and it gets redistributed through Massive to where the artist is. So it's been really important for us to have the delivery system for when we're accepting turnovers from clients be able to quickly land in-house and quickly be picked up by any other process that we want to employ. Some of that is, little organization of files before they go through a conform process. Some of it's more complex things, but ultimately just trying to have another way to integrate into our pipeline without being reliant on a watch folder.
So, do you remember the day or that light bulb moment that you had that made you say, Massive, Mistika, these two have to work together?
A couple years ago, we had this big job. It was complicated, and I saw a posting towards the end of the day that said it was approved. And then we had an artist that was here till midnight delivering. And I was like, why? What? There has to be a better way. Like, what's the bottleneck there? And I think that, as Jeff said, you got to you have to dedicate the time to sort of look at a solution and figure out, all right, so this is how we did it last time. How can we do it better? And then, and work with your team, work with the Mistika team for, any additional customization to then say, okay, now we have a system that that really takes a lot of time and effort out of the way. We're on a project right now that is, a quarterly campaign where there's 960 deliverables, but there's not that many spots. It's just that all of the other things. So it's like every time you make a change to legal, you make a change to this and that. Like, do you want an artist spending their time making the rest of those things and creating an error? I mean, that's one, that's not a best use of their time, and two, it's it's not in touch with the realities that we face these days from a scheduling standpoint. Like you can't get it done fast enough. So you need these tools that allow you to say, hey, here's a template that we created, that we developed, that we're tweaking, that works for this process, that can be replicated for this other process, that can be tweaked for this next one, but that then allows you to have the artist focus on what they're good at, what they need to be spending time on, what they're billable for. Not to get too businessy about it, but and also as a means to not burn people out. I think that I've always been a fan of trying to create systems that eliminate some of you know, um, the tedious parts of the systems, and this is one where it has immense potential. And as Jeff said, we started small and we're thinking bigger now, and it's been really eye-opening, part of that process.
So have you seen real-time collaboration, hybrid work, and things like cloud delivery reshape client expectations?
Right now, it's kind of again, I mean, you know, uh, we're we've got a project now that we're working on that has kind of a little bit of both. We have some on-prem work, we have some cloud work, and sort of looking at, all right, how do we make all this work together? Um, I think the pandemic brought a lot of the remote work, cloud-based things, sort of brought it forward faster than I think we had imagined beforehand. And I think that's great, but I think that, it's not for everything. So I think you still have to look at ultimately what is a time saver and what is a hindrance. I do think though that the ability to shuttle large files around to different artists, to different vendors from, is paramount. And it's how things work now. And so you need to do that reliably, but you also need to do that in a way that then plugs into your on-prem environment nice and smoothly as well, so that you can do to the files what you need done.
I think it does as well simplify that kind of collaborative workflows for smaller facilities, because in the past probably those collaborative workflows were more linked with big houses, big facilities that they have, the infrastructure and the team for sharing those that media between different vendors and build those complex pipelines between different companies. Now with solutions like Massive, for example, it's much easier to deal with those things. So even if you are not one of those, big guys in the in the industry, one of those big companies, you will be able to have those collaborative workflows between different companies, freelancers, vendors, whatever. Yeah.
Actually, the industry has shifted in such a short period of time, where actually these requirements of working in different spaces have actually almost become the norm, and you just have to handle it and deal with it. It's kind of funny, because I think when everyone started talking about the cloud, I think there was this initial thing that everything would go to the cloud. Well, in reality, that can't operate that way. So I think what we found is it's just handling like different camera codecs. Actually, is we still have to do it. We have to still handle those different formats, and then we have to still handle those different ways of working. And I think Adrian made a really good point. Is that as for us as a developer, we can't go and do all those things ourselves, but by having different hooks into different technologies, which bring all these things together in actually a more seamless way, clearly has huge benefits, and I think it means that the efficiencies that we can bring to a company such as TED, I think removes all of that worry about, well, how do I handle that? Where does it have to go there, etc. Actually, you can just kind of make it all work without too much effort.
What was it like working with the Massive API?
Seamless, I would say, was seamless. I mean, our developer had almost no doubt. 2 or 3 tiny details, he just contacted your support team and was answered pretty straightforward. And once we had the code, the final code, we give to your support developers and to give their okay, and just 3 assessments, and that was it. So really, really, really nice.
In general, what I would say is like we always try to start these integrations not only as a technical integration, but somehow as a collaborative project between that platform or that solution and our solution. So it goes beyond that. So we always try to build something on top of that. So that's the reason why we always like to have that first call with those platforms and solutions, or with those companies, to tell them, hey, this is what we are trying to do. Let's build something together. So it's not only just take the API and integrate it, because we always think that we can bring more things if we work collaboratively.
So now that you have access to the integration, how has it impacted your day-to-day operations?
I would say it hasn't, in a good way, meaning, we now have the ability to receive what we use Massive as well, but we also receive things from other people. So, now we can receive, send, and integrate that into all the different pipes that we have going on. And so that's pretty great. And Jesus said, seamless. So far, seamless. And I mean, that's what you want. You want it to get out of the way, do what it's there for, and integrate into your pipeline.
So what should people start automating immediately?
Yeah, I think just even just managing your media. I mean, we've got a very powerful classified by metadata node in there, which allows you literally to use Mistika workflows to orchestrate and actually you build logic into those things. So rather than someone having to sit down and work out about what that file is and where it should go and whatever, you can actually just automate those processes. And actually, the thing that I think is so super simple, but actually again is so helpful is the notification side of things, sending someone an email, a Slack message, a WhatsApp message, when something's happened. I think it sounds really simple, but normally someone has to sit and write that, but actually you can automate those processes. So, I mean, it's a bit of a tricky question, Connor, because to be honest, it's like, well, okay, what do you want to do?
The multi-mastering, which is Ted and their team asked for, the multi-mastering delivery is another great candidate to be automated. I mean, anything that does not require a creative decision in the middle can be.
And I mean, I think from my perspective, it's like, what's your biggest pain point? I mean, if everyone's got a pain point, and it might be on a specific project, or it might be something overall that you're seeing. And I think if you take a step back and just take a moment to talk about it, then you'll understand that it's something that needs to be solved. And here's a way to solve it, which you might not have thought of previously. The multi-mastering, as Jesus mentioned, has already been a huge change for us over the last year. The VFX pulls is another enormous one for us, because now we can have that set up, go from Resolve, go into Mistika, and do all the pulls, and then deliver them to specific vendors, or deliver them to ourselves, meaning like I've prepped and these are going out of house, these are staying here. So I think that it's allowing yourself to take a step back and say, hey, listen, there is a better way. And I think that if anyone hasn't been in a node-based environment, at first it can look intimidating, but once you understand like the fundamentals of it, and as Jeff said, starting at like from a very simple standpoint, like I used an example. I was talking to Jeff about this a while back. We had a friend that we met at NAB that we pointed to Mistika workflows, and they sent us a note. They're like, "Oh my gosh, I just rendered out my movie, did my hour-and-a-half commute home, sat down at the dinner table with my family, and got a Slack notification that my frame posting was ready to send to client." Like, on a simple level, that person just saved an hour and a half of their time. Like, like, so, and like, and then you see that, and then you can start to see, oh, okay, what can I add to that? What else can we do?
I think a lot of creatives are asking the question right now, how do I get empowered by automation as opposed to replaced by it?
We've talked a lot about this internally. The reality is, within this industry, the tools have always changed. They've always gotten better. They've always gotten, more capable. And right now, we want to use the technology to get certain things out of the way so the artist can focus on what they can still do, what we still need them for, which is craft. And I think that especially within a place and time where like the demands on post are greater, the timelines are tighter, the budgets are more challenging, so you have to find a way to work smarter. And I think that it requires people who are thinking outside of the box of where they've been to say, okay, here's not me getting replaced, here's how I can differentiate myself to be a more efficient and effective artist, to make my life easier, quite honestly, and to increase the throughput.
What trends are you seeing in terms of how post teams are approaching workflow design?
Probably from our perspective, for example, the implementation of standards, basically new standards that have appeared in the market. We can mention some of them like ACES, like now Open Timeline IO, Open Color IO. These kind of new standards help us as a developers to integrate tools that you can check with other tools as well and see that you get the same result, and that helps a lot to the final customer. And it basically makes the automation easier because you add less variables in that automation, because those tools are the ones that everyone uses and they work great. They are maintained by other teams, which is great as well. So yeah, that's probably one of those trends that help a lot in this area.
Also, the adoption of kind of name conventions, more or less standardized for everyone. For example, for the VFX, thanks to great majors, now there is a known name convention for all VFX pools, and the same for the editors or assistants of editors. So now things are going more and more standardized some way. So it helps a lot to have a base where to build an automation tool. Because in the end, you have to rely on some rules, you know.
Where can viewers learn more or try the MASV and Mistika integration?
Well, obviously, you've put some stuff on your website, so thank you very much for that. So that's a good place to look. But obviously, they can go to our website as well and have a look at what we're doing. You can have a free trial as well. We want people to give it a go. And if people have questions, they can contact us and we can have a conversation about it.
Ted, is there anything else you'd like to share?
We've explored a lot of different solutions, and MASV for us has worked the best at the best price point, hands down. And has a lot of different tools to be able to work well for certain client needs who need passwords, who don't need passwords, for certain automations to go, certain tools to be able to download direct to facility and things like that. So, I mean, I think it's been wonderful for us in that regard. And I think from a Mistika standpoint, you have to give it a go. I mean, you just, to start, pick one thing that you do every single day and look how that can be improved. And think about, what are the pain points at your shop? And, and if you have a question about, oh, I don't really understand how this can do that, get in touch with them. I mean, those are the conversations that we had. It's been eye-opening to get that perspective. And suddenly now we are taking a different approach to all projects because we understand now what's available to us.
Huge thank you goes out to Ted, Jeff, Jesus, and Adrian for diving into the new MASV integration inside of Mistika workflows. Automation is not about replacing artists. It's about freeing them to focus on the creative work that means the most to them. The best tools come from listening to the people who use them every single day. The biggest takeaway here is something that Ted said, which is start to take a look at your daily routine and ask yourself, what are your biggest pain points? What's one repetitive task I could improve or automate? If you're ready to find out if the MASV integration inside of Mistika workflows can solve that problem for you, you can try it out with a free trial. Thanks for watching Inside the Integration. I'll see you next time.